So is Season of Mastery doing well? No. TBC's bad, Classic is the best. Then why is nobody playing it? I'll tell you why. So lazy? I am. It is lazy. Because I don't want to work in a video game. You are exactly right. It looks like I have not seen this video.
Classic WoW Season of Mastery is nearly 1/4 way through its life cycle. Releasing on the 16th of November, it was advertised as Classic with a twist. The game you'd just played, but this time with some targeted changes to hopefully make it a different experience this time around. Boosting stopped via buff to instances, world buffs removed, more content than ever before from Phase 1 with Diamol and Tier 0.5 and all the battlegrounds. Ranking have been sped up and modifications to raid encounters to make them a little more interesting. And for them to
what the problem? One of the problems of Season of Mastery was the fact that there was no better loot. Like with Path of Exile, for example, like every league they introduce a bunch of new loot, but there is no new loot in the game.
Hopefully last more than 30 seconds.
It's like it takes harder to get the same thing.
In the project. If you can say one thing about Season of Mastery, it certainly hit many of the very, very common complaints that were thrown out from the player base during Classic. Not a week went by without some new drama forming around the world buff meta, the Dispellers, the ways people figured out to be summoned inside of walls, hiding on the roof in Orgrimmar to get War Chief's blessing, and that one guy who made it their mission to kill the priest that came to reset the Oni buffs, until everybody spam reported him and he got trigger banned. I even saw that.
Those were the good old Classic days, boys. That's what it was. Yeah. I feel like allowing world buffs in Classic WoW, like, I always thought it was stupid that, like, Blizzard spent all of Classic WoW and they never made some of the world buffs undispellable. Like, all it did was create griefing and make people mad. It was such an obnoxious meta, and Blizzard never changed it. They never did anything about it at all. And all they did, like, what do you really do whenever you do nothing in that situation? You empower people that are malicious to continue being malicious. Like, that sucks. Like, I have no fucking problem if you want to kill somebody with world buffs, because that's cool. But, like, spam dispelling them is just so fucking cringe. Like, how did that even happen?
Happened once. Fun times. Season of Mastery's Phase 2 happened on December 16th, which you probably missed it, in fact, as it was just...
No changes, though? Listen. No changes was what the game was supposed to start with. It doesn't mean that no changes should have never happened. And there were tons of changes made in Classic WoW too.
The world bosses. Pretty much all of the Phase 2 content had already been out from launch. And now moving on, Phase 3 is happening on February 10th, which will be the Dark
Did anybody know that?
And the second major raid tier, Blackwing Lair. So we can...
Did anybody know Phase 2 was coming, like Blackwing Lair was coming out in Season of Mastery? Like, I had no idea. Fuck.
Expect AQ40 by 6 months and next by 9 months. Maybe. They still have to do 6 phases overall. So with some time past, the dust settled, the first major raid tier about to come to an end, how's Season of Mastery looking? Is it a healthy yet niche community, or is it in a death spiral already? Let's take a delve back into the world of
I think it's in a death spiral.
And try and answer that. Before we do, a big thanks to all the supporters over on Patreon.
I feel like it's definitely in a death spiral.
It really does make all of the difference. More on that at the end of the video if you did want to join in. So with Season of Mastery, it's a little bit more difficult than it's been with Classic or TBC to really try and gauge what exactly is going on player base wise, what kind of health the game is in. Whereas I feel
it's not. Let's look right now. We're going to look right now and we're going to see how many people are actually playing the game. So you have one server that's high population and every other server besides Shadow Strike is low population. So is Season of Mastery doing well? No. Like, it probably, think about it like this. Season of Mastery probably has less players on it. Oh, God. It has less players on it than New World. God, that was hard to say. Ooh, that was hard to say. Yeah, it has less players on it than New World. And also, like, I mean, it has way less players. Like, way, way, way less players, man. Let me go ahead and see where New World is. I would be surprised if more than 5,000 people were logged on to Season of Mastery right now. Like, straight up. Like, I would be surprised if it was more than 5,000.
Majority of players will either be raiding or PvPing on TBC because that's kind of the content that there is to do. A lot of people have played Season of Mastery for the hardcore challenge or to try a different class out for a bit, to do classic PvP again. Or those who leveled, made it to about level 38, then decided, actually, nah, I don't want to do this again. These people are basically invisible when it comes to reading stats that we have online. Nevertheless, let's have a look at some numbers and then have a talk about
because they're not getting parsed out with like add-ons for like logs or anything like that. They just kind of, they're just invisible.
So I did a video a few weeks after Blackwing Lair was released in Classic, where I have the stats from the number of Molten Core players at that point in time, and it was just under 14,000, with 40-player raids, remember. That's over 500,000 people having cleared Ragnaros around the time when Blackwing Lair opened in 2020.
Wow.
Actually, you know what? Have a guess how many guilds are 10 out of 10 in Seasonal Mastery. It's probably going to be a
if I had to guess, 40.
lot lower than you expect. Okay, the time is up. There are 196 guilds which are 10 out of 10. So in Classic...
That's a lot. Oh my god. 196? That's crazy. There's almost 200 guilds rating. Wow, that's crazy.
Around Blackwing Lair, 14,000. Seasonal Mastery around Blackwing Lair, 200.
Wait a second.
Guilds are...
Actually, let me see right now. Oh, actually, that's the Barney video. I don't want to close that one yet. Warcraft logs. Let's see how many guilds have actually cleared Classic WoW and Vanilla. Let's see. So at least there's 50 guilds that have cleared BWL. Okay, there you go. There's only 69. There's only 69 guilds that have cleared BWL. So there you go. So over half of them that were raiding in there are no longer raiding. I wonder if there will even be a dozen that are doing Nax. That's crazy.
Around Blackwing Lair, 200. In fact, more guilds are 14 out of 14 in Tier 6 before the first reset on the TBC server Firemore alone. Okay, it is a big server, and if you saw the video I did not long ago about mega servers, I was amazed back then that it had over 20,000 concurrent players over the space of a week.
Mega servers are great.
Tier 6 opening, it spiked to over 35,000. It even has queues again. Horde on Firemore, it ain't looking too hot for you. That's all I'm saying. This faction imbalance thing only ever goes one way when it starts to tip. After all, I'm sure Gehenna's could use 15,000 more Horde players, couldn't they? Anyways though, Seasonal Mastery, back over to Som. Ironforge.pro shows the biggest server to be EU's PvP server, Dreadnought, with some 3,300 active raiders. Pretty good actually, that's not bad. Next is North America's big PvP server, John Gabar, 2.2k. Still pretty good. EU's PvE server, Kingsfall, next with 1k.
So I feel like you're probably going to have like 2 big servers for every region, because everybody is going to want to play on the big server. So you're going to have the big Horde server, the big Alliance server for both PvP and PvE. That's probably what it's going to be. Actually, the big PvE server doesn't really matter.
Hey, that's a little bit on the low side, perhaps. An APVE server, Shadow Strike, not far behind. We also see a heavy preference towards Alliance across all servers as well on Seasonal Mastery. There is a total raiding population across all servers of around 10,000 players, which is around 250 raiding guilds, give or take.
10,000 people
maybe
only?
200 out of the possible 250 having done a successful clear of Molten
I guess
Core.
those are only people who are raiding.
That bad. So, what does all this mean? Well, if Firemore is good for 35,000 players in TBC, I'm not entirely convinced Seasonal Mastery needed more than one server type per region, and players have, per usual, sorted themselves out into only the largest servers to play on. Moreover,
of course, because servers are outdated. Nobody wants to play on a server and have this unnecessary barrier to entry. Nobody wants to be like, oh, I can't play with this guy because he's on another server. No, we don't want to do that. We just want to play with everybody that we want all the time, period. That's it. That's it. No, I don't care. Oh, server community. Nope. Nope, don't care. Doesn't matter.
At least at the time of doing this video, Blizzard have said no to transfers, either paid or free, on Som, and plenty of people rolled on servers which turned out to be not the big server for your region, and the raiding scene will grow scarce there, and the player base will over time, because you need 40 people to raid for the majority of Classic. People take breaks. You need a pool of players to get interested and involved in raiding.
Well, that's the sad thing. Whenever you're playing on one of these dead servers, is that there's maybe like only 200 people that are even interested in raiding on Molten Core on a lot of these smaller servers. And many of them don't want to have a raid group, or they don't want to make a raid group. So the one raiding guild or 2 raiding guilds that do exist, well, they don't want to invite you, or let's say like they raid at night and you work at night, so you just can't find a spot. And so like you just end up quitting because of that.
Diminishing population this just doesn't happen long term. It also appears as though many changes were put into the raiding scene, but I just don't think that many people are interested in raiding again, and that they are playing for other reasons. And I know I can't back this up with numbers, which I'd prefer to, but looking across the two biggest European servers, Dreadnought and Kingsfall, these starter leveling zones are still considerably more active than TBC. Yes, this was on a Saturday morning.
Doubt.
It's going to be fairly active now, but still. A little walk through Ironforge or Stormwind doesn't really give me the impression of totally dead servers either. In fact, Dreadnought Ironforge looks pretty decent from the number of people hanging around there. Ironforge has really become the main city again, because you don't have to wait around in Stormwind for world buffs anymore.
Stormwind sucks. Ironforge, this big open area in Ironforge, is one of the coolest places in the whole game. It's only because of Iron Manning, people constantly starting over. Oh, so you think that the reason there's a bunch of new leveling players is just because they're playing hardcore? That's actually a really good insight. I think you're right.
FG,
perhaps. Yeah, I think you're right about that.
Let's get the bulletin board up. Let's join World. There must still be people using that for some reason.
Yeah.
And yeah, okay, this wasn't looking in the best situation. There wasn't much spam, not many groups going. To be expected 3 months in. I remember having a hard time finding tanks early on in Classic with an absolutely massive player base on Gehenna's Alliance. Perhaps this is just a side effect of dungeons not being the most relevant content for too long. But then just this week, Blizzard comes in hot with the buffs to Season of Mastery to try and get people interested again. Here are the big changes. The amount of loot dropped by bosses in Onyxia, MC and BWL has been increased by 1 item per boss. There is now a chance to proc additional potions, elixirs and flasks where max level alchemists craft any of these type of items, and the Adventure Awaits quest experience buff has been increased from 40% to 100%. And
if they increased it, the thing is that nobody wants it's not enough, man. It's just simply not enough. If there is going to be something like this, like it's just simply not enough. I don't know why they don't understand that. 400% or nothing? No, it's not about the 40%. In Classic WoW, one thing that people forget is that quest experience isn't your main source of experience. Your main source of experience is actually from mobs, because you're killing so many mobs in the game, just passively through dungeons, etc. And if they doubled the mob experience and the quest experience, which is what they should do, then I'd be more inclined to play. But no shot I'm going to play when it takes this long.
They also say extra health has been removed from bosses in BWL. They have now just changed mechanically.
Bots, though? No, I don't care. The thing is, like, I will not accept bad game design because Blizzard doesn't want to pay GMs to deal with bots. I would rather just not play. I'm like, okay, well, all right, so you don't want to do bots, so you're just going to make the game take longer and just make it stupid for no reason? Okay, I'm done. All right, I'm done. That's it. Problem solved.
Shows a bit of a change in attitude towards content being harder from Blizzard moving from Molten Core to Blackwing Lair, because initially Blizzard said that less sources of gear would be part of the challenge and that loot scarcity was part of Classic. Also, you have more consumables now because extra procs, sort of how it works in TBC. Yeah. They must really feel as though players will need a huge volume of consumes for the changes in BWL. For example, it's now expected to pop pretty much every single type of greater resistance potion before the Chromagus encounter.
Yes.
As instead of just walking behind a wall to line of sight his breath,
you can't line of sight it.
Debuffs now causes a player to go into an ice block, and then the rest of the raid has to go behind him to avoid the breaths. Yeah. Just like how the ice block works on the Saffron encounter, actually.
Which is really cool. Like the unfortunate thing about what do you call it? About the Season of Mastery is that the abilities and the buffs and the way that they change the raids is really cool. But nobody's going to do it because raiding takes too long. Like, I don't want to farm out all of these buffs to be able to play the game, and then we wipe and I have to put them all on again. I just don't want to. Like, that's it. And like, if I didn't have to do that, like if I could log in to Classic WoW and I had a pre-made character that would spawn right at the instance of the right at the beginning of the instance, and I could do the raid with full buffs, and I never had to worry about farming or anything like that, I would raid in Season of Mastery 100% because it would be fun, and I think a lot of people would. But the moment that you put in all of these fucking buffs, all of these resources you need to have, and everything like that, it becomes not fun. So lazy? I am. It is lazy because I don't want to work in a video game. I don't want to do this. You are exactly right. You are 100% right. It is completely lazy because I don't want to. Period. It's not fun. That's it. I don't care about, oh, is this lazy? Are you earning it? Is anything like that? I don't care. I don't want to do it. It's literally that simple to me, man. They could sell attunements and pre-made characters in a cash shop. Yeah, there you go, dude. So LFR is good. I have no problem if people want to see the story. I care about the gear in LFR because the gear makes it to where every other raid tier before it is fucking useless. That's why LFR is mainly bad. Going through the story, who gives a fuck? It doesn't matter. It's the fucking gear that's the problem.
Think Molten Core participation was too low due to difficulty, perhaps?
Yeah,
Maybe.
definitely.
But now we have more loot and more available consumables. To top it off, 100% bonus XP for levelers. We're suddenly out-leveling heirlooms in SOM. 3 months in at that, I guess they really want to encourage people to give it another go at this point. And some people are really happy with these buffs. For others, it's too late. Recently, Wowhead did an interview with Brian Birmingham, the lead software engineer on Classic.
So someone said in here, I just wanted to read this real quick. Someone says, you said you wanted to remove the world out of an open world MMORPG game? I don't like the way that consumables work in the game. I find it unfun and boring. Yeah, I mean, I don't know really what else to say. I mean, I don't know how many other ways I can explain it. I don't have fun farming consumables. I don't want to farm consumables. Period. It's not fun. It's annoying. Especially whenever every single time you wipe, you have to put them on again. It sucks. And there's no like real challenge. A lot of like the Molten Core stuff is like not really, it also feels bad because you're doing it in a 40-man raid and then somebody in the 40-man raid makes a mistake and now everybody's dead. So like now you just had your time wasted by that person. It's just going to create mad. It's just going to create like frustration. Like I don't want to do that. Like it's not fun. So I don't do it. That's all there is to it. It's bad gameplay, and that's why people aren't playing it. It's that simple.
About how they feel SOM is going and the plans for the future. So let's take a quick look at it. He's asked about whether having PvP gear from the start was a good decision, which he says having PvP gear as an option certainly helps in that regard. We always expected people who were willing to devote a lot of time to PvP to choose that route. For me, it feels as though PvP gear was a bit too good to have straight away, especially with the epic quality rank 12 and above pieces, which for many classes are comparable to AQ40 gear. He's asked about an honor system revamp possible for future seasons, to which he says for now we're happy to leave the unique design and slowly modernize the technology behind it, but I wouldn't totally rule out the possibility of future changes. When I read modernized stuff behind it, I hope—
You know what we need? You guys know what we need? TBC plus. TBC in pretty much every way is a better game. TBC is a—
That would mean things such as balancing the queue times, looking at matchmaking between the solo player and the pre-made in Season of Mastery. Also, Warsong Gulch and AB could use more incentives outside of the Battleground weekend. Ultra Valley just has so many good rewards behind it, on top of the better honor per hour, including the ring.
AV, in terms of getting rewards out of a Battleground, AV is like just 5 times better than Warsong Gulch and Arathi Basin. It's badly designed.
Things that caster off hands, two-handed weapons, a rogue dagger, a mount,
Yeah.
and it's much easier to hit Exalted in as well.
Way
Ryan's asked
easier.
about how he feels the raid difficulty has gone so far, to which he says, I think we've done a good job hitting our difficulty bars so far, but as we get into later raids that were harder to begin with, I think we'll have to be careful. For those, we'll have to walk a tight line if we continue to make changes, so they'll be interesting, but not exceedingly challenging. Well, they just recently removed the extra bonus health from bosses in BWL, but left in the new mechanics. Maybe this will be a trend moving forwards. They are also asked, is there ever a chance there will be a completely new raid or dungeon developed for Classic in future seasons?
See, like that would actually get people to play the game. Because this is what I felt about Classic WoW with like Season of Mastery. Like, why do I want to go back and do something I already just did, but now it's harder for no extra reward? Like, I'm sorry, but I just have like literally no intention of doing that. Like, literally zero fucking intention of doing that. No shot.
Many players would refer to as Classic Plus. Brian says they have two major groups of fans to focus on, the Burning Crusade fans and the Classic Plus fans, and that they were torn between both approaches after they first released Classic. He says, I wish we could do everything, but there are always more ideas than we have the time for. If there's a decision to be made here in terms of where more people are playing, there is always going to be a massive amount more on TBC. You look at last reset on Firemore with 35,000 players compared to Season of Mastery with its 10,000, and it's not even really a decision to make, is it? Though Season of Mastery should see an increase with the changes made and BWL opening. Also, Season of Mastery is definitely suffering more than just a bit from the timing that everything has happened. T6 has just opened. It's been a lot of fun, and a lot of people will have to make a choice. Do I want to go back to a modified version of Classic, or do I want to do this content ahead of me, which for many people...
The truth is that Burning Crusade is a better version of Classic WoW. I've said this many times. Burning Crusade is Classic WoW, but better. Like 100% it is. And it's just, yeah, I'm sorry, but like it is just simply a better game. The classes are... No, it is not an opinion. This is not an opinion. This is a fact. Classes have better rotations in general. Not every single one, but in general. There is not as much rampant cooldown usage. You don't have to spend as much time outside of the raid farming for materials that just get removed constantly. There are no world buffs that you have to farm that create an immense pressure whenever you do raids, and also outside of the raids, social pressure. The raids are harder and also just better designed. On top of that, you have a PvP system that actually rewards skill rather than participation. You also have a raid size that's more manageable. You also have tanks that are more viable in different situations, like paladin tanks and druid tanks as well. You have, let's see, what else besides that? You have flying mounts. Those are way fucking cooler. And let's see, what else besides that makes TBC better? All classes are better balanced. Like, there are a lot of classes in Classic WoW that just suck. Like, DPS paladins suck. DPS druids suck. There's no reason to ever bring one of them to the raid in Classic WoW. It's always a waste of a spot. But the fact is, if you have that in TBC, it's not like that. TBC is much better balanced. It is a just better game in all regards. Like, you don't need balance for fun, though. See, that's what you think until your class is the one that isn't balanced. That's what you think until you have your class that's bad and you don't get a spot because your class is bad. That's just the truth.
People is technically new content. I never did this when it was live back in 2007. And of course, a lot of people will have their agenda about X, Y, Z. I didn't like this about the season, which is why it's quote unquote dead. You know, no world buffs. The season's too short. No class changes. You could go on and on. But there is still very much, among the larger servers at least, a population still playing the game. I'm not sure they're playing for the reasons that Blizzard has changed the game though, rather than just wanting to play Classic again because they prefer it. I'm starting to think Season of Mastery just wasn't quite specific enough in the direction it took. Blizzard could have done a copy-paste 2019.
They went for kind of like a middle ground between the two, and that's what the problem was. Somebody asked me why I played Classic more than TBC. It's actually very simple, because I already beat TBC. I already beat TBC in 2007. You know, I killed Illidan. I never killed Kel'Thuzad or Cthulhu back in Vanilla WoW. I started too late. So that's why I wanted to play more of Classic WoW, because I had more content to it as well. Absolutely. You didn't know? Yeah, but I did. I killed Kel'Thuzad and I killed Cthulhu. I think we killed Cthulhu on the first day of AQ40. It might have actually been the second day. I'm not sure.
Launch with world buffs, chaotic phase 2 world PvP, and everything else it had. A lot of people would have flamed them hard for this decision. I probably would have as well, but there are people who are after that experience. This would be the no changes people, or whatever's left of them at this point, though I feel they're quite a vocal minority. Or Blizzard could have really gone full out and said, you know what, it's a seasonal server, we're going to make sweeping changes to the game because we want you to rediscover it, we want you to find new ways to enjoy your class, we want you to mess around with talents, find new ways to PvP, new ways to raid, and get the most out of your character. I think Seasonal Mastery has ended up being a bit in between, a bit mixed as for those who it's keeping interested.
It made nobody happy.
I've said it before, this does feel a bit like a tester season, and that things will only become more varied if and or when Season 2 is a thing. I do believe Seasonal Mastery can still be a fun game casually. There are leveling groups happening and low level zones are active. The 100% XP buff is coming soon, which I actually think is only going to be a short-term benefit, not a long-term one. Though if you do consider rolling on some at the moment, make sure you're picking one of the big servers so other people are also playing the game. For me personally, I like the leveling in Classic. I nearly got to level cap, but after that I didn't see anything that I wanted to explore which I hadn't already done. I considered trying to main a different class, but I already have a good amount of experience on everything, having hit level 60 on all the classes during Classic. I could raid with the changes to Seasonal Mastery, but I'm more invested in TBC raiding at the moment, and I don't want to add both to...
That's why most people are. Most people would rather raid in TBC, because TBC, as I said, is a better game. It is just simply a better game than vanilla WoW, and I genuinely believe that you can quantitatively prove that in so many ways. And you know why? Oh, why? No, it's not better. It's bad. TBC's bad. Classic is the best. Then why is nobody playing it? I'll tell you why. Because it sucks. It sucks. It was good for its time, but it didn't age well. It was really great. We did it, and now we're done. That's why. Isn't that crazy?
My week. Overall, I just couldn't find the time or really the motivation to play this season. For me, in the end, the scope of the changes were too narrow. Basically, in conclusion, next
True and agreed.
That will be all low. A big thanks once again for everybody on the Patreon for supporting the channel and helping me do what I do. As always, guys, I hope you enjoyed, and I shall see you all in the next one very soon.
There it is. All right, let's see here. I've never been more wrong on something before this. Is there anybody who thinks that the arena gear acquisition is inferior to spamming Battlegrounds for weeks for 12 hours? I think that we can all agree pretty much that PvP is better in Burning Crusade than it was in Classic WoW. Like, PvP is 100% better. The gear acquisition is better. The gear itself is better. It's more relevant. It is just simply better. World PvP, though? World PvP is garbage in every single game. Because every single time that you have World PvP, the person who initiates the fight will only initiate it if they know that they will win. You have a mage that gets up on like a lamp post and he starts frostbolting a warrior. You get a warrior that sees a mage at low health and he charges and one-shots the mage. This is not some sort of fucking holy grail of content. 9 times out of 10, the person who initiates the World PvP conflict wins it. Because if they weren't going to win it, they wouldn't have initiated it. It is dog shit content. It's boring. And it's the reason, here, I can prove to you why I can prove to you that World PvP is garbage, okay? Here, let me prove it to you how garbage World PvP is. Let's go over here. Burning Crusade. Let's look at demographics. Look at this. PvP server, oh, that's a PvE, PvE server, or PvP, PvP. All of these PvP servers that have pretty much gone like 100% one way or another. Mograine, 100%. Earth Fury, 100 fucking percent. Every single time. And you know why? The reason why is because most people don't want to play a game like that. And that is the proof right there. Ignoring Firemaw, biggest server? I'm not ignoring it. This one exists too. Absolutely, Firemaw is great. But Firemaw is the exception, not the rule. Don't you see that? Like, there's 30,000 people on Firemaw, but there's 20 and 30,000 people on Benediction and Faralina. There's one server that's like that, and all the other ones almost are unbalanced massively. And they trend towards that unbalance more and more and more. Irrelevant, you're looking at TBC, not Classic? Let me see if I can look at TBC. So, Jam Gabar, it's 67%, 32%. Dreadnought, same basic thing. Shadow, what's this here? Behrman Shanker, this one's only got fucking 300 people on it, so it's not really very good a comparison. Swamp of Sorrows, Quell Sarar. These are, actually, Quell Sarar is a PvE server. Mutanus, but these are all, like, also very, very low population servers. Yeah, I've got 3 people in them, whatever. All I'm saying is that World PvP is objectively not fun for people, and I think that you can prove that people in general find it unfun by the fact that they migrate towards servers that are drastically overpopulated with their faction to avoid World PvP conflicts, because being in a server where it is equal or where they are outnumbered is not fun. Why is it not fun? It's because they get outnumbered and they lose more encounters. This is just logic. So to say that World PvP, again, is some holy grail that needs to be kept and it's so sacred to the game, every single analytic can prove the exact opposite. It can prove the exact fucking opposite. And until you can give me a reason why World PvP, why this thing doesn't happen, and prove to me that Phase 2 and that type of content in Classic WoW didn't cause tons of people to quit, I will not take anybody's opinion on this seriously. But the fact is that if you look at the way that these servers evolved, and you look at the servers that died, especially whenever Phase 2 came out, I think that proves beyond a shadow of a doubt that World PvP is trash content. It's fucking annoying. It is always initiated by the people that think they're going to win. As I said, last point I'm going to make, and then I think we have a video to watch. Last point I'm going to make. How many times have you been questing alongside another player of the opposite faction, and you have a ceasefire, you have a truce, everything is fine, everybody's okay, you're friends with him, he's friends with you, and then suddenly his friend comes over, or another member of his faction arrives, and guess what? He gets a sudden burst of courage to fucking kill you. And guess who helps him? The guy that shows up, and you get 2v1'd and you're fucking dead. Like, that's not fun. And if you think that that's fun, you are just clearly in the minority. You're just clearly in the minority. This is not something, and these are all, by the way, these are all the servers that are fucking dead. Yeah, people think, like, they think it's fun until it happens to them. One thing I've learned is that people's opinion of how they feel about things is different than how they really feel about them.